finally, she starts telling me she wants to let him know about us. Okay, and of course I fight that. I says, no, I mean, he's not, please, you want to get me killed? I mean, I know it. And she laughs. He would never do that. He loves you. Anything I love, he loves. You know, giving me little hints that possibly he knows. And at that point, I have no idea, okay? And I still don't know the real exact truth, okay? So we continue for a few more months. Now he sees me getting erratic. I don't show up where I'm supposed to show up because I think he's going to kill me, okay? Because now I started seeing little things. You know, guys get thrown out, kicked out, maybe cracked around. You know, not major violence, but in the club, the office, I may see one of the Shylocks who's hanging around, you know, grabbing a guy by the throat. So I know it's not a nice...
Nobody's gotten killed yet, though? No one's gotten shot, or you haven't seen anything like that?
No, nothing like that yet. But like I said, I have an Uncle Albert who's a dinosaur with the Colombo family. He went back all the way to Junior Persico's rise. As a matter of fact, there's a scene in a movie, well, The Godfather, where the guy's getting choked at the bar. Junior Persico was doing the choking. My Uncle Albert was in the crash car outside. You know, so
in real life.
In real life,
yeah.
So he was tight with Junior from way, way back. So I knew there was deaths and guys get killed. You know, Brooklyn. You know, especially back then, you'd see a body every couple of weeks somewhere. You know, it wasn't odd, and I didn't want to be one of those bodies. I started getting paranoid.
So what year is this? Is this 80 already or not yet?
Not quite.
79-ish.
79 pushing 80, yeah.
Okay.
It's about 18 months after we met.
So you're 18 and a half, 19 at this point.
Yes,
okay.
Yes, exactly. And so now what happens is, like I said, he starts seeing it. So he starts saying things to me little by little. I don't like what I see. Is something wrong? You got to talk to me. And I keep letting it go. Finally, there's one specific instance where I didn't show up, and he was going to hit somebody that night, or he wound up hitting him. All I had to do was drive him downtown. Just drop me off. And I didn't show up, okay? And I found out later on, a friend, Bucky, was killed that night, okay? He was going to have me drop him off there. And if you follow the MO, as years go by, they give you little tiny things to do, ultimately to bring you to a certain level where you're asked to do more. So that little bit of a thing was his first step. Maybe he'll hear about it, maybe he won't. Very psychological. And when you bring a kid in, okay, and it's usually an influential male that you're following that brings you in. I got brought in by an influential woman also. So
like Scarpa brought in Leonetti, and Leonetti was also young, and you know, he was gradually getting him through, but Scarpa was he was also a brutal guy, but not 200 hits like Scarpa was. Scarpa stopped counting after 50.
He told me that. He stopped counting at 50. And then I heard later on, you know, higher numbers. Then when I was away with him and Gas Pipe on MCC, they were talking about numbers between the two of them. They said we got over 200 between the two of us. That's where the 200 came from.
Is this organizing or is this leading? There's a big difference, the two, right?
What do you mean?
So you say
no, they're not all authorized.
You're for yourself 25 as you were involved in. Right? That's the number that I read about you, right?
Yes.
What was Scarpa's number?
He was a shooter. Okay, he never asked anybody else to do the shooting unless it was for a reason, to make their bones, to get them settled in and understand they're capable. He never asked me to go anywhere alone, never asked me to do this, never asked me to, even on the beatings. Well, beatings a lot of time it was Greg Jr. would be. He took that as a badge of honor, that he didn't relegate it or say, you will go do it. He says, he'd get out of the chair, say, let's go. You know, and we'd go with him. And again, this is later on, which I'll get to. So, no, but he was a shooter on the scene. I've heard about some hits that aren't even that public, you know, that, you know, I can talk about it now, everybody's gone. I wouldn't hate to cause trouble for somebody, that's why I say that. Even though I made a deal with the government, I'm not looking to start trouble for people. I was never that way. But, so anyway, going back to this night, that was a pivotal night. He knew something was wrong with me. So she started telling me again, we're going to tell him, we're going to tell him. And I made a comment back then. I said, get me a bulletproof vest first, please, because you can't tell him. I mean, you know, now he's got to kill me.
You being sarcastic or serious?
I was half serious,
okay,
half sarcastic.
Yeah.
You know, I just, so finally one day I get to the house. Well, what happens is the supply company has a big problem at the factory. It burns down. Okay, to this day, I don't know if it was done on purpose.
Yeah.
You know, in hindsight, probably a big insurance check. It's the MO. Nobody really wants legitimate
Very
businesses.
common strategy.
Right. So now I'm in no man's land. Okay, I left college for this. The fire department test that I was very high on. I got a 99 on the written and a 95 on the physical. Now, the 99 on the written, I should have got 100. It wasn't a very difficult test. I started saying, nah, they're trying to trick me. And you want to know what one of the questions was? Okay. You're walking past a gas station. You notice the pump is leaking. You, A, stop and light up a cigarette. B, ignore it. It's none of your business. C, call the fire department. D, all of the above. Obviously, it's C. So most of the questions were like that, and I was laughing my way through it. The physical, on the other hand, guys were throwing up at the end. It was very difficult. So a 95, I'm proud of. Anyway, I'm high on the list, but what happens is that test, back in the day, now this is back in, 81, 80. I took the test in 80, probably 79. When, as soon as I was 18, I took the test. And it gets thrown out because minorities had a problem with it and women with the physical. So a judge in the federal courts takes 2 years to rule on it. Then he rules on it and sets another test for 2 more years. So 4 years is going to go by before I can take the test again. In that time, she knows I'm in no man's land. She tells Greg, or asks him in front of me, we got to find something for Larry. So I'll never forget, the first thing out of his mouth was, well, we could get him in the numbers. The number business is the lowest form of racket there is. Nobody gets hurt. There's no credit. The biggest problem there is tax evasion if you have a big number business, okay? So I get in it with them, and they give me a few ideas of how to build up numbers. They give me a few spots that are already working. When I say them, it's Greg and Greg Jr., because they're partners.
Got it.
I start improvising on my own. I start going to, and I'm already good with numbers. I was always good with numbers. I go to the local OTBs. I know there's all gamblers in there. I go to the bowling alleys because they're all bowling for money. And I'm picking up numbers, and they're all giving them to me. Now I start, at the OTBs, I start taking horse action. OTB is off-track betting. I don't know if you remember that. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it goes way back. And it failed in New York, and I couldn't understand how, later on in life, how do you lose in a gambling proposition? Anyway, so I start now picking up horses. So now I'm bringing horses in, and I still don't have enough. I get the football tickets, okay, the parlay cards. Again, lowest form of racket you could do. But now I'm making $500, $800 a week, back in 80. All cash.
Yep.
And I don't even have to tell my parents I'm not the manager anymore. So I'm still making a living, and they're not asking any questions.
And you're living with your parents
I
still.
live in a basement apartment.
Got it.
Yeah. And, you know, so now there's really nothing looks out of ordinary other than my first caddy. When I pulled in with the first caddy, I said, no, it comes with the company, you know. And I've said along the way.
With the company.
I said along the way, and I don't mean it in a bad way, because I don't consider myself a liar by no means. I try to be honest and ethical, whatever the word is. I got a lot of people that'll attest to that. But certain situations, you become a good liar.
So if you like this little short clip from an interview I did, click over here to watch the entire interview. And please don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.